Hi, and welcome to another edition of YCPL Book Talks. I'm Pearl.
And I'm Beth. And today we're going to talk about cozy mysteries. So, Miss Pearl, what exactly is a cozy mystery?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Beth. So, a cozy mystery is essentially a mystery that involves an amateur sleuth, oftentimes in a smallish or at least a kind of close-knit community. And this amateur sleuth can take on the form of many different people. It could be a concerned citizen, it could be someone who's a shopkeeper, somebody who maybe is tangentially connected to the police department, but they are definitely not law enforcement. And they take it upon themselves whenever there is some kind of crime, usually a murder, possibly multiple murders, to kind of try to suss out clues, because usually in a cozy mystery, the amateur sleuth can they can cross over lines that the traditional cops can't, and they can talk to people and perhaps kind of get information that, again, people might not tell law enforcement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another thing is they tend to get in trouble with law enforcement. I mean, you're probably not supposed to be investigating murders on your own.
Well, probably not. Another hallmark of cozy mysteries is that there's not necessarily a lot of violence or sex or profanity in them. It's possible that sometimes certain things are hinted at, but they happen off screen. Some people like to consider them more of a gentler mystery, but I think that doesn't necessarily do service to just the wide range of cozy mysteries that exist. Some are more serious, some are a bit lighthearted. There's not a one-size-fits-all genre.
It's true. And that's one of the best things about cozy mysteries is regardless of your interests, there's probably a cozy mystery that you'll enjoy.
Yeah. Some of the more popular subcategories in cozy mysteries there's craft-themed ones, gardening, food or culinary-based ones, book or library-themed ones. They're set in different countries, they're set in different locales. There's really something for anybody that's looking for some type of cozy mystery.
Exactly.
So we thought that before we talked about some of the books that we read for this video, we kind of talk about how we got into reading cozy mysteries.
Sure.
So Beth, how did you get started?
So first of all, I would say that I was not a mystery fan at all. I didn't like procedural books. I didn't like murder mysteries or thrillers, any of those sorts of things. I mean, I was pretty much a hard sci-fi, epic fantasy reader. That was just my lane, and I kind of stayed in it. And then somebody suggested that I read a series called Cat in the Stacks. And I was like, whatever, okay, fine. I should probably read it just so I can know what these cozy mysteries are about. I'll just read the first one, it's fine. And then suddenly I found myself reading the entire series in one go. And I was like, okay, I like cozy mysteries, but only if they feature books or librarians and maybe a cat. And that was pretty much where I stayed.
And I would say that I hadn't really had a lot of experience with cozy mysteries prior to maybe about 10, 12 years ago. I was more into sci-fi, fantasy, young adult fiction, things like that. And I was in a Books-A-Million. Remember those?
A Books-A-Million, you say?
Yes, a Books-A-Million. And I happened to see in the fiction section this cover that had a blue ribbon and some potato chips and a cupcake, barbecue stained tine fork, and it was called Stiffs and Swines by J.B. Stanley. And I was like, that looks very interesting. I like food. And the description sold me because it involved a murder at a barbecue festival, which again, it was like, this is just being tailor-made to me. And so I read it, and I really enjoyed it, and I slowly was able to acquire the rest of the books in the series as the Supper Club series. And it involved a group of friends who were trying to lose weight, and they live in a Virginia town. One of the main characters is a librarian, and I really enjoyed it. And fun fact, not funny, J.B. Stanley actually is an alternate alias for Ellery Adams.
Oh, okay.
Who is one of the authors of the books we'll be kind of touching on later.
Sure.
Really enjoy her writing a lot. Not that she'll ever see this, but if she did, I love your work.
I have found that I am loving your work as well.
Yes. I have a strong preference towards kind of the culinary themed, food themed. I really like to read food, like descriptions of food. It's a thing. I also like the library and book themed books.
Sure.
But you know, I'll dabble. You know, if it's got an interesting premise and the cover kind of, you know, pulls me in, you know, and the writing is decent and kind of, you know, I'll try stuff. You know, I've gone down the road with a craft series before. You know.
Yes.
You know, so it's one of those things that if I decide I like a cozy mystery, like the first book, even just kind of like a bit, like it entertains me, I'm like, I will just read the rest of them. Why not? You know.
I mean, and they're great reads because they're fast and enjoyable usually, and you can find something that you're interested in them, which we both have. I used to call them my guilty pleasure. I was sort of embarrassed that I read cozy mysteries because they were light fluff.
And you should never feel embarrassed.
No, and now I don't, because, you know, there's plenty of people out there that read cozy mysteries, and they really do fill a need in my reading life, basically. So
yeah. I like to try to figure out, you know, if I can determine who the murderer is, you know, who's behind all of the crime that is suddenly repeatedly strickening this inevitably small town, you know. And it's kind of nice. It's like a little puzzle for me. And sometimes I'm right, and sometimes I'm like not quite sure, and that's nice too, you know. You want a certain degree of, you know, comfort reads, and would you say that these are comforting to you to kind of...
Yeah, definitely. They're definitely comforting when you know, something's not great in my life, or I just read a really dark book. I often move to a cozy mystery, even though there's murder in it. It's always it's lighter fare, it's comforting. It's not predictable, but I kind of know how the formula is going to go, and that is just something that I like about them. You know, I always know, okay, I know what I'm going to get when I pick up a cozy mystery, even if the mystery part, the puzzle, is something I wouldn't expect. I can still enjoy it for that because it is comforting to me.
What specifically do you like about cozy mysteries?
So yeah, the formula for one, but also the thing that I love the most is the characters. So I really love quirky side characters, but more than anything, I like a main character that I have something in common with, you know, and that's why I was drawn to bookish cozy mysteries initially, because, you know, often they're people who love books, or they're people who are a librarian, or they're people who have a cat. The very first one got me because the cat is a Maine Coon, which is, my childhood cat was a Maine Coon. So I immediately identified with Diesel the cat and his owner, who is a librarian. So I just really like when I can identify with the main character, you know. But again, I don't like it to be overly predictable. I like the puzzle. In fact, the books that I like the most are the ones where I don't know who the murderer is until it's revealed.
And that's good. I mean, that's understandable, you know. I definitely also prefer kind of a solidly written mystery. If it's becoming entirely too predictable, it's one of those things that, you know, red herrings are great, but it shouldn't be so obviously a red herring that you're like, well, that's not the person. You're trying to make me think it is, but it's not. You know, it's like, you know, and I don't necessarily feel like I have to see myself in the main character necessarily, but I do like a character that doesn't make dumb decisions.
True.
Like I like a main character that seems like a reasonably intelligent person, that the author doesn't have them do like boneheaded things just to move the plot ahead. They don't put them in unsafe situations where you're like, no, this person should really know better. You know, it's like, I remember I read a cozy mystery, title and author's name withheld, that within the first 20 pages they discovered a dead body in their restaurant, and their immediate first thoughts were, we need to hide this. We need to get this out of here because it's going to make us look bad, and we need to hide this and like get it out of here. And like, I'm of the opinion, if you find a dead body in a cozy mystery, you need to call the cops.
Yeah.
So any protagonist that doesn't automatically call the cops, it's like, you've lost me.
Yeah.
But in any event, and also, you know, inconsistent character traits too. Like, you're told that this person knows these things, or they act a certain way, they have these certain interests in one book, and then you get a couple books into the series and all of a sudden they're acting completely different. And it's just, that might just be a writing thing, but
it still does. Just because cozy mysteries are comforting doesn't mean the writing has to be bad. And honestly, most of the ones I have read, with the exception of a couple that
shall remain nameless,
are really good writing. I mean, and that's one of the things that loses me, is when the writing is bad, but more than that is when the dialogue is bad, because I'm so invested in the characters. If the dialogue isn't something I would expect that person to say, or doesn't flow naturally, you're just gonna lose me. It's gonna knock me right out of the story, and I'm just gonna be done. I'm just gonna be done. Not that I won't finish it, because I have a really hard time not finishing a book, but
that's understandable. I would say one more thing before we kind of jump forward is romantic relationships tend to be a pretty big part of cozy mysteries. Sometimes you're lucky on some level, and the main character has like a long-term significant other, or like a spouse, and it seems like it's a healthy, decent relationship with its normal ups and downs.
Sure.
But a lot of times you get this protagonist who is single. Usually something terrible has happened.
Yes.
The fiance or the boyfriend has dumped her, cheated on her, because I could be wrong, but I feel like the bulk of cozy mystery protagonists are women. There are men like Charlie in our Cat in a Stack series, but a lot of them are women, and they've been wronged in some way.
Yes.
And inevitably there's always at least one man love interest. In some books there's a triangle, you know. Sometimes it's with local law enforcement, sometimes it's not.
Yes.
And it's like, I don't mind romance in my cozy mystery. What I do mind is relationships that seem like they drag on forever with no momentum, and some of these series that can go on for a few books. Some of the series that we're going to mention have gone on for quite a few books, and it's like, I think that relationships do take time, but after a certain point it's like, if it's not a good relationship, move on. If it is a good relationship, let's see it go somewhere. But with that in mind, let's move forward to talk about some of the cozy series that we decided we wanted to share with you today. And you've been hearing us drop this first one a few different times. The first one is the Cat in the Stack series by Miranda James. The first book is called Murder Past Due. Currently for us, York County Public Library, available in Overdrive. And basically this is about Charlie Harris, who is a widower and a librarian, and he comes to Athena, Mississippi after his aunt passes away, and he's going to live in her house and work for the local, I want to say the local universities. Is it their special collections?
It's their special collections. So basically their archives, and that sort of reference. But he also spends time working in the public library as sort of a part-time gig.
And that's where he finds this little ball of fur who is Diesel the cat. And then there's a classmate that dies, and Charlie and Diesel have to kind of figure out what's going to happen and try to keep somebody who is being accused of the murder out of jail.
So, this is my entry into cozy mysteries, of course, but the reason I love this so much, besides the fact that there's a wonderful Maine Coon cat who's he's a character in and of himself, and I think he's treated really well by the author, in the sense that it's not unrealistic how the cat is described and how the cat acts, but he does have a personality, which can be missing from some animals described in books. But I think even more than that, it's got this great sense of place and this concept of Southern hospitality, the Southern gentlemanness. Charlie's just a wonderful character, and the people he comes in contact with and everybody he surrounds himself with, it's just really enjoyable to read and kind of go on this journey over all these books with him, because it's an ongoing series. It's still being written. There's still books coming out, and I just love it. I can't say enough about it.
I was going to say, I think that all the series we picked today, I think they're all, unless something has changed, I think they're all ongoing series. But no, I enjoy. I was going to say, Miranda James is actually a man. Fun fact. Not that matters, but I just think that's interesting.
Which I don't know if it's unique, but it seems like, I mean, when I'm looking down the list of our other ones that we chose, they're all women authors. So it is kind of unique that this one is written by a man and he uses a women's author's name. I wonder if that was a technique to get him more readers in this kind of cozy mystery genre. I don't know.
I mean, I would never make any assumptions in the publishing industry. So.
Yeah. We're just completely not,
Yeah.
no knowledge in that
Yeah.
industry.
But
except for the books we like to read.
Well, I would say Cat in the Stacks. If it sounds like a series that might be intriguing to you, like Beth said, it is long going. There are multiple books.
Gosh, I don't even know. It's like what, 10 maybe?
That sounds accurate.
There's a lot.
There's a lot, and it is a series that I think maintains its consistency, which cannot necessarily always be said for any series in general, regardless of whether it's a cozy or not. I think Cat in the Stacks it's consistently good. And I do agree with what you said about how Diesel, he's a unique character and utilized very well. Because a lot of times in cozy mysteries, especially more recently, you'll see someone start a series and it's almost like they felt like, oh, I need to include a cat or a dog.
Yeah.
Like I need an animal character.
Yeah.
Like, and they don't necessarily stop and they don't necessarily think about how is that going to be worked in. It's almost like the formula of, I must find this abandoned animal, or this animal must find my main character, and then it's part of the story. But it's like, but is it though?
Yeah.
And Diesel very much is. So.
Yeah.
So moving forward, our next series that we wanted to mention is the Scottish Bookshop Mystery Series by Paige Shelton.
Yes.
So we're going from Mississippi across the pond. Yes. The first book in the series is called The Cracked Spine, which is a lovely little title. And it basically involves a Midwestern American named Delaney Nichols, who decides to move to Scotland, and she's going to take this job at The Cracked Spine, which is a quirky bookstore with kind of a mysterious undertone to it. Her boss's name is Edwin McAllister, and when his sister is killed, he's accused of being her murderer.
Yeah.
And so Delaney is already wrapped up in this bookshop with all of its lovely characters, and she decides that she's got to solve this mystery to save Edwin and her job, because she hasn't been there for very long, but she already just sees it as a place that she really wants to be a part of.
Yeah. And the reason I love this one is because it's an American perspective, an outsider's perspective of Scotland, whereas the first one, Charlie comes from, Athena, Mississippi. She's never been to Scotland. She doesn't know anything about it. And she, gets sort of introduced to it. That's kind of the drawing point for me, besides the fact that there's this really cool bookstore that I really want to visit that probably doesn't exist.
That's fine. Yeah, the bookstore, we don't want to give too much away, but, it does have a front-facing side, and then it does have a mysterious archive side
behind a red door, right?
Something like that.
A mysterious red door.
Yes. What's inside of it, I couldn't say. You would have to read to find out, but it is very intriguing, especially for book lovers such as ourselves. Definitely a big selling point for us.
Yeah.
And then, because it shouldn't be surprising that we picked 3 different series that have to do with books.
Yes.
And it's a great segue into the third one, which is by Ellery Adams. And the first one is called The Secret Book and Scone Society. So the Secret Book and Scone Society name comes from the fact that there's a main character, Nora Pennington, is in Miracle Springs. She's running from a past, of course.
That's a secret.
Yeah. And she opens this bookstore where she kind of helps people who are in pain find books that kind of help to, revive their souls, basically.
Yeah. Which is a really cool concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when one of the customers of the bookshop is killed, she kind of forms this society with some other women who live in town. People with secrets, hence secret.
Yes.
And book.
Because it's a book club.
And then one of the people in this group, she makes scones for people, and it's very personalized flavors, like to kind of, and I'm going to say this terribly, so it's fine, but it's almost like it helps give them comfort. It unlocks a very, I feel like almost a very personal memory for them, and helps them, not unlike Nora helping people with the books.
Right.
So these women they, band together to solve the case and to help each other.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, one of the reasons I like this book series a lot was because Nora she's perhaps one of the most damaged main characters that I have encountered. Not to say other people haven't, but that I've encountered in a cozy series.
Right.
She has, gone through something very traumatic, and she's also trying to take personal accountability for her own actions, which is, I don't want to give it away because I want you to just read it.
Yes, you should. You really should read it so you can find out.
But it's one of those things that you don't find out at first what it is, and it gets gradually revealed. And I thought that was really nicely done, because sometimes people will just tell you up front, oh, this is what is wrong with this person, and I like that gradual unfolding.
Yeah. And it happens with all of them. I think with all of the different women who are part of the society, I think this is one of those examples of Ellery Adams just being magic. There's a lot of different ways you could have written this character, and she's just, I don't know. I think she's just a really great character, but so is everybody else around her.
Yeah.
And it's just a really neat concept too. I really like the idea of healing through books and also through scones, because I love scones, so.
Yes, scones are delicious. Yes. Yeah.
So that one's a little bit about food and a little bit about books. And then the last one that we're going to talk about is basically all about food, in the best possible way. And so it's the Maine Clam Bake Mystery Series. And this is the one that I said, oh, I don't really read food mysteries. And you were like, okay, you should read this one though. And I was like, okay. And the first one's Clammed Up, and it's by Barbara Ross. And so in this one, Julia Snowden, who is this high-powered executive living in the city, has to come home to Maine to rescue her family's struggling clam bake business. But when she gets there and she's doing all this stuff to rescue this business, their big opening weekend is ruined, basically. They're going to cater a wedding, and the best man ends up dead, kind of crashes the party, if you will.
Like dead bodies do.
Yeah, exactly. And then she has to basically join the mystery because, of course, the main suspects are her employees and herself. So that's the reason she has to go and figure out how to solve it. And then eventually her love interest gets dragged into it. And this is one of those ones where the love interest almost lost me. And I was just like, but the book is so good. And I like Julia, and I like all these great little small town characters in, this Maine setting. And I just, it's a good book, but the relationship's just,
yeah.
It's
yeah. And it's I've never been to Maine, know, and it's one of those things that this is another. I mean, they're all long running series. There's all multiple books, and I feel like with each book, I'm getting a different kind of view of life in Maine, and I really enjoy that, But yeah, the relationship, the crush, Chris. And I think you could assume, based on my reaction, that turns into something more. You'd be accurate. I
don't give anything away.
I just not a fan. Not a fan, but that's okay. I think that if anything, this series proves that you can maybe not like the relationship that the main character is in, but still enjoy the book.
Yeah, I've definitely kept reading it. I was like, I'll just read the first one as a favor to Pearl to do this video, and I think I'm in the third or fourth one now. I can't remember which. And it's good, and we have all of the ones she's written so far. So
yeah. I mean, I don't like seafood. I don't like to eat it.
It's okay.
I'm not a fan.
I definitely don't like clams.
It's good for everyone else, just not me. And it's a testament to the fact that I read this, then I'm like, yeah, I'm really enjoying reading about this clam bake scene, even though I don't want to eat any of the food.
Yeah.
Except for the corn. I like corn.
Yeah. Well, my favorite part in terms of food is actually the dive diner that is in there, and you'll just have to read it to find out, because it's a great place. And I'd love to visit there, although I'd probably be thrown out.
You would be thrown out.
Because I'm a stranger.
Yeah. Yes. That is true. No.
But it's just a great sense of place. And she creates, great characters and places for their characters to live in.
And I think that would be a common theme for all the books that we've talked about today, is that they do have a strong sense of place. They do have strong characters. And they do have, I would say, good writing that kind of, even if there's maybe a little bit of an aspect of a story that you're not 100% sold on, that you still get pulled forward and you still want to keep reading and read the next one, which I think is good, you know. So,
and they all have good mysteries.
Yeah. Yeah. But ultimately, I mean, cozies are a huge subgenre of mysteries, and there are subgenres within cozies. And there are plenty of other series, not just these, that are available from both our library and, you know, other libraries in general.
Definitely.
So please be sure to check the show notes below, because I believe that Beth made a couple of lists, some suggestions. And, you know, you could also search our catalog, or you can come into the reference desk and ask for, you know, a little bit of help, and we can find you something.
As we said,
Yeah.
The wonderful thing about cozies is that there is something for everyone. There is a cozy out there for you, and I hope you come into the library to discover it.
And remember, you may not like the first one in a series. That's okay. It's a library book. You can just check it back in and try something else.
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you so much for watching our video today. And we hope that you find a cozy mystery series that you enjoy, or you try cozy for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make sure to please like this video and subscribe, and also like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Please
have a wonderful day.
have a wonderful